Colleges were once considered the crown jewel of opportunity. For generations, earning a degree was the ticket to a better life, financial security, career advancement, and personal fulfillment. But something has shifted. The trust in higher education is eroding. Enrollment is dropping. Student debt is climbing, and employers are no longer impressed by a diploma alone. The college system, once seen as unshakable, is now facing a crisis that threatens its very existence. This isn't just about tuition or student loans. It's a cultural, economic, and existential reckoning. To understand the decline, we have to begin with the numbers. Since 2010, college enrollment in the U.S. has declined by over 15%. That's more than 2 million fewer students. And the pandemic only accelerated the drop. Some institutions, especially small private liberal arts colleges, are closing their doors entirely. In 2023 alone, at least 20 U.S. colleges shut down or merged due to unsustainable finances. And that's not a fluke, it's a warning. Why is this happening? The most obvious answer is cost. Tuition fees have skyrocketed over the past few decades. In 1980, the average annual tuition at a public university was about the $1. Adjusted for inflation, that's around $3,000 today. But the current average tuition is more than triple that. Add in room, board, books, and hidden fees, and many students graduate with debt burdens exceeding $30,000 and in some cases over $100,000. That kind of financial pressure isn't just inconvenient, it's debilitating. And what do students get in return? For too many, the return on investment just isn't there. A 4-year degree no longer guarantees a stable job, let alone a lucrative one. Underemployment among college graduates is on the rise, and many find themselves working in roles that don't require a degree at all. The promise of upward mobility has eroded. More young people are asking a hard question: is college actually worth it? Part of the problem lies in how universities evolved. Many institutions expanded aggressively in the 2000s, building new dorms, hiring more administrators, and pouring money into branding campaigns to attract students. But instead of focusing on academic excellence or affordability, some colleges became bloated, bureaucratic machines. Today, at many schools, there are more administrators than professors. The cost of education has grown not because classes got better, but because the system became inefficient. Meanwhile, alternative paths have emerged, and they're gaining traction. Trade schools, apprenticeships, boot camps, and online learning platforms offer faster, cheaper, and more targeted ways to build skills. A 6-month coding bootcamp can lead to a $70,000 salary in tech. A plumbing or electrician certification can result in a lifelong career with minimal debt. These paths, once seen as second tier, are now becoming first choices for a generation that sees the traditional college route as risky and outdated. There's also a cultural shift happening. For years, the dominant narrative was that college is the only respectable path, but younger generations are pushing back. Gen Z has grown up in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, the pandemic, rising inflation, and climate anxiety. They're more skeptical. They want freedom, flexibility, and relevance. They're questioning authority and outdated systems, and college hasn't adapted fast enough to keep up. Let's not ignore the political dimension either. Colleges have become battlegrounds for culture wars, with critics on both sides claiming that higher education is either too mocha or too oppressive. Trust in academia as a neutral space has diminished. Some see colleges as ideological factories rather than places of genuine inquiry. When people stop believing that education is impartial or useful, they stop investing in it financially and emotionally. The student loan crisis adds fuel to the fire. In the U.S., student debt has surpassed $1.7 trillion. That's more than the GDP of most countries. And unlike other forms of debt, student loans are nearly impossible to discharge through bankruptcy. Many borrowers carry their debt for decades, delaying home ownership, family planning, and retirement savings. The emotional toll is immense, and it affects decisions about whether to attend college at all. And colleges aren't just losing students, they're losing prestige. Tech companies like Google, Apple, IBM, and Tesla have removed the college degree requirement for many roles. They care more about what you can do than what paper you have. Real-world experience, problem-solving ability, and adaptability now matter more than GPAs. In industries driven by rapid change, traditional degrees can actually be a liability if they teach outdated content. So where does this leave the college model? For many institutions, it means a painful period of contraction. Some schools are slashing programs, especially in the humanities, to focus on more profitable majors like business or computer science. Others are trying to reinvent themselves entirely by embracing online learning, competency-based education, or partnerships with employers. But these moves often feel reactive rather than visionary. There are still elite universities, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, that maintain their reputation and demand. But these represent a tiny fraction of the higher education landscape. Most students attend regional public colleges or lesser-known private institutions that don't offer the same connections, prestige, or financial aid. For these schools, survival depends on proving their value, not through marketing, but through outcomes. One of the most glaring issues is misalignment with the labor market. Many colleges still emphasize abstract theory over practical skills. Students graduate with knowledge but not experience. They write papers but never manage projects. They take exams but never negotiate deals. In contrast, employers are increasingly looking for people who can contribute from day one. The longer colleges fail to bridge this gap, the more irrelevant they become. And yet, it's important to recognize that the decline of colleges doesn't mean the decline of learning. In fact, people are learning more than ever, just not in traditional classrooms. Platforms like Coursera, Khan Academy, Udemy, and YouTube have democratized knowledge. Anyone with internet access can study computer science, philosophy, art, or finance for free or at a fraction of the cost. Education is evolving, but colleges haven't caught up. Some institutions are adapting. Purdue University froze tuition for over a decade while increasing graduation rates. Arizona State University embraced online degrees with the same rigor as in-person programs. Southern New Hampshire University built a massive online enrollment model, serving working adults and returning students. These schools are proof that reinvention is possible, but it requires humility, focus, and real leadership. So what does the future look like? We're likely heading toward a bifurcated model. On one side, elite institutions will remain strong, serving high, achieving students with access to networks and capital. On the other side, we'll see growth in modular, skills-based education, certificates, boot camps, micro-credentials, and stackable degrees tailored to industry needs. Traditional mid-tier colleges that fail to differentiate or innovate will continue to shrink or disappear. In this landscape, students will need to become smarter consumers. That means asking not just, "Can I get in?" but "What will I get?" will dominate the conversation. Data on graduation rates, job placements, average salaries, and debt burdens will become as important as SAT scores or rankings. Education will become more personal, more intentional, and less about prestige. But the responsibility doesn't fall only on students. Employers must also rethink hiring practices. Governments must reconsider how education is funded, and colleges must rediscover their core mission, not just to educate, but to prepare people for a life of purpose and contribution. That may mean smaller classes, more mentorship, stronger ties to local industries, and a renewed focus on teaching, not just research or sports. The college crisis is real, but it's also an opportunity, a chance to break the one-size-fits-all model. A moment to reimagine what higher education could be if it were designed for today's world instead of yesterday's assumptions. And for those who embrace change, not as a threat but as a chance to evolve, the future might not be bleak. It might actually be brighter. Because at its best, education is not about status, it's about transformation. Not about buildings, but about minds. And if we can remember that, then even in decline, the next version of college might be something stronger, smarter, and far more human.